You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Hello, Maria Varmazis here. For today on T-Minus, we're bringing you a special conversation from my N2K colleague Dave Bittner, host of the Cyberwire Daily. While we often cover matters of space and space cybersecurity here from a very United States-centric lens, pardon us for doing so, as that is where we are all based after all, we are changing it up today. Dave's conversation with friend of the show and space cybersecurity expert Brandon Karpf is taking a deep dive into current challenges and future opportunities for the cybersecurity of space systems in Japan. Here's their chat.
It is always my pleasure to welcome back to the studio Brandon Karpf. He is the leader of International Public-Private Partnerships at NTT. Brandon, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Always good to be on with you.
Yeah. I saw an article in Japan Times that was about Japan's space systems facing growing cybersecurity threats. And obviously, your employer, NTT, is out of Japan.
Sure.
I'm interested in your take on this. Can we start off with some high-level stuff here? I mean, where does Japan stand when it comes to how they're dealing with the challenge of security in space?
Yeah, so overall, this story, which really came from Prime Minister Takaichi's growth strategy, where they, at the end of 2025 and into 2026, have named space and cyber among a few of their priority sectors for investment over the coming years in their budgets. This is part, in this story about space security, is part of a larger story around cybersecurity in Japan, where Japan is actively growing their investment and their capability in countering some of the most significant cyber threats around the world.
Have they been behind?
I think they have been a little bit. They've been a little bit isolated and not leaning as forward as they can or as their technology sector and capabilities would allow them to. And one of the notable things under the Prime Minister Takaichi, is really just in the last year, they have made tremendous strides forward in being more aggressive, more direct, and building their own relationships around the world, not just with cybersecurity, but with national security and defense, certainly taking kind of a more of a leadership position.
My understanding is that Japan has implemented unified cybersecurity standards. How does that apply specifically to space systems?
Yeah, so Japan, kind of broadly speaking, and again, especially with this administration, has recognized that space and critical infrastructure are active targets. For example, JAXA has been breached, JAXA being their version of NASA, has been breached twice in recent history with major cyber intrusions. And then observing what occurred in the early days of Ukraine with the Viasat attack, Japan's kind of recognized that their core critical infrastructure is held at threat and is trying to make inroads in addressing that. They're doing that through a few different ways. One, as you mentioned, kind of universal standardization, but also laws. So in May of last year, they passed what's called the Active Cyber Defense Law, which enables them to take more, what we would call in this country more offensive, but they're calling active cyber defense against adversaries in critical sectors. And so this recent announcement about the space sector and the risks of space sector, but also the investment, it's looking like about almost $60 billion this coming year that the Japanese government's going to invest in space security using a space strategy fund, is specifically around kind of modernizing these architectures and trying to bring in not just the technology, but actually the talent and the training and the resources to build up their domestic capability.
Can we touch on the perceived asymmetry here? I mean, cybersecurity, you often hear it described as being asymmetric. Does that apply in the context of space systems as well?
It does. I think that idea of kind of the offense-defense balance, the asymmetry between the two, is probably kind of changing as these AI threats kind of move into the market. I actually think that it might, this is another podcast, but it might level the playing field a little bit. So this asymmetry, it does exist. That's kind of a classic view on the security paradigm. I think what's more interesting here is the recognition that national critical infrastructure in Japan, this is true in the US as well, relies on other pieces of infrastructure. So the water treatment facilities rely on energy and rely on space communications and rely on telecommunications and all of those vice versa, that there is no isolated, siloed piece of critical infrastructure, and that we can't allow one domain to lose investment or to be insecure. And so we actually need to invest in all of them simultaneously and think about how they interconnect, think about how the vulnerabilities in space communications and satellite infrastructure and ground stations might actually affect the security of the energy infrastructure or the port infrastructure or the transportation infrastructure, and recognizing that these systems are actually, just like the internet itself, interconnected.
Japan launched a space ISAC back in 2024, and they're signaling that perhaps they want to engage more in international cooperation. Are you tracking that trend as well? Does it seem like, to what degree is Japan being insular, and to what part are they actively seeking out collaboration globally?
Yeah, so that the same act that was passed last May, called the Active Cyber Defense Act, actually has three pillars. One of them is the one that I mentioned, kind of reaching out and touching the bad guys. But another pillar, one of the three pillars, is actually titled public-private partnerships or public-private collaboration. And so very intentionally including investment and resources in collaborating, not just with public-private internal to Japan, but actually internationally. This is something that I do in my role with NTT, is work very closely with members of the Japanese government and their cybersecurity office, building relationships between them and foreign nations and foreign partners in the US, the UK, et cetera. So there's active investment. And another example I'll give of Japan's kind of shifting perspective under Prime Minister Takeichi is just starting a few weeks ago and going through the coming weeks, Japan has been an active participant in a military exercise in the Philippines. This is the first time that's happened, where Japan forces have been on the ground in the Philippines, working alongside the US, the Philippines, the French, the Australians, in a multilateral exercise testing not just offensive military equipment, but communications and intelligence processes, et cetera. And so this is kind of showing that Japan is taking more of an active leadership role, especially in the Western Pacific region along these pathways.
Brandon Karpf is leader of International Public-Private Partnerships at NTT. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for listening to T-Minus. I am your host, Maria Varmazis. The show is produced by Ethan Cook and Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben, with content strategy by Mayan Plout. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. Thanks for listening. We'll see you Sunday.